country who, like me, feel that today's Democratic Party is completely out of touch with the people. We have the Democrat elite, people in the Biden administration, pushing this nonsense, saying things like, hey, the government should be responsible for raising your children, not you as parents. They are pushing things like censorship of any speech that they don't like. They're pushing open borders. They're pushing favoring criminals over victims. The list of their insanity goes on and on and on. I was a Democrat my entire adult life up until a few months ago. Because of their insanity, I could no longer associate myself with them. And so they have created this position for themselves where voters are looking elsewhere. And I just got to say, you mentioned no labels and Joe Manchin. The Democrats are terrified of this, and I think it's laughable and arrogant that they're saying, oh, well, how dare he be a spoiler? They're so entitled, they take voters for granted that they think that they can just call anyone who stands up against them as a political opponent for Joe Biden as a spoiler. It's crazy. Voters want options. They want to be able to vote for the best candidate that they believe can do the job.
Do you see Robert Kennedy? Do you see Marianne Williamson? Do you see Cornel West? Do you see Joe Manchin? Do you see any real threat to Joe Biden? What about Gavin Newsom? Been doing a lot of campaigning recently. I had a long interview with him. He says he's supporting Joe. However, I believe that he's probably getting close to 150,000 calls a week telling him he needs to get in. Do you agree with that?
Well, on Gavin Newsom, I think voters are smarter than the Democrat elite are giving them credit for. They recognize that Gavin Newsom has shown through his record, his failed record in California, would be just a younger version of the Biden administration's same insane policies that look out for their own self-serving interests and not the best interests of the American people and our country. I think poll after poll shows that voters in this country are looking for someone other than Joe Biden and his failed policies to lead this country, and so absolutely they should consider all the options before them.
Would you ever consider getting in?
If there were a way for me to be able to best serve this country in that fashion, I would.
Would you consider that third party or no labels option?
I'd consider all options, put it that way.
Well, sounds like somebody's thinking of getting in this race. We'll see. Tulsi Gabbard, great to have you as always. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.
Dan, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, happy to do it. So good to meet you in person. You do such great work, so I'm very impressed.
Well, we wanted to ask you, particularly because this is so topical. You were in the Secret Service for 12 years, right? What do you think about this White House cocaine situation?
Yeah, I got a lot of questions about this. So here's the deal. There's no way that this should have went down the way it did. Let me just say, as a personal plea to my former colleagues in the Secret Service who I adore, don't do with that agency what the FBI did to itself, okay? If you're not familiar with how Secret Service security works in the White House, we're not getting into details, but enough where you'll understand what happened. When you go in the West Wing, it's totally different than the East Wing. The West Wing is a limited access area. The East Wing is large, they do tours, thousands of people go through there, okay? Ushers, staff, whatever. The West Wing is limited access, even more limited access on the weekend. And not that many people can get tours. It's really hard. People used to come to me for tours of the West Wing all the time. And I was like, I can't do anything for you. They're limited access. So there's probably less than 200 people who could have left this cocaine, by the way, in a bag, which is plastic, which is non-porous, meaning it's probably not that hard to pull a latent print. They gotta know who did it. The question is, who's pressuring them to find out, to not find out who did it, and it's gotta be coming from this White House. This is terrible. Just don't destroy this agency like you did the FBI. It's really unbecoming. And one more thing. A lot of my former colleagues in the Secret Service who retired, they are absolutely furious about this.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I tell you, I got 50 emails, communications, texts from people. This is embarrassing, humiliating. These are good guys, man. Guys who worked for Obama and Bush, you know, the nonpartisan guys. Most of them aren't even political. This is embarrassing. They know exactly who it was.
Wow. So do these people want it to come out that it was probably Hunter Biden?
Yeah. the question is it Hunter or one of his friends? Well, like, here's the thing. So, I'm in the Secret Service 12 years. You know, a good amount of time. We've never had this problem. So nobody got my Occam's razor, right? The process of deduction, keep things simple, keep it simple, stupid, Occam's razor, right? You got this guy, you never found coke in there before. You got a dude who's doing coke on tape, who's got a reputation being a cokehead. He's living in a White House. He's there on Friday. The coke's found on Sunday, and everybody's like, gosh, who can it be? I mean, this is like, it reminds me of that Jon Stewart bit with the COVID lab with Stephen Colbert. Like, I don't know. What could have done it? Your card says the Wuhan coronavirus lab. Like, who could have done it? This is one of those crazy stories where you just, again, you're begging them, like, please don't do this. It's so, you're going to destroy faith in this elite agency. Remember, the Secret Service motto is worthy of trust and confidence. That's literally their motto. Don't do this. They know who did this. It is probably him or someone in this small circle of people. They know who it was. Get the job done. Do the right thing. And just move on. I know it's going to be tough politically, but you got to have some guts.
Yeah, speaking of, you brought up the FBI and how the department has been really corrupted. Do you have concerns that if Donald Trump is the nominee, if he's going to be president again, that he will face any more attacks from the intelligence communities?
Yeah, I mean, again, just basing it on a process of simple deduction. They hit us in 2016. They hit us in 2018. They hit us in 2020. 2016, 2018, we had Spygate and Mueller probe. 2020, we had the magic disappearance of the Hunter laptop. Even in the midterms in 2022, we still had various leaks and indictments and attacks on Trump. There's no reason a sane person would believe that there are not going to be additional attacks. So it genuinely worries me. The good news, if there is kind of a bright side, which there there really shouldn't be in this deep state swamp we're living in, is that Americans now get it. I can make the case to you. Now listen, I love Ron DeSantis, best governor in the country. I'm not here to bad about. I'm endorsing Trump. I think Donald Trump's the best candidate. But I think this inter-party stuff is getting a little ridiculous. DeSantis is great, but if I had to point to one moment where candidly I think his campaign changed, I think it was the response to the Mar-a-Lago raid and the indictments afterwards. I think the American people, they were a little upset. I mean, I'm not here to give him political light. Again, he's a great governor. He's got a bright political future. I'm for Trump, but that doesn't mean I'm anti-DeSantis in any way. But I use that example not to bash him at all, but just to say that the American people get it now, and I think they understand in the greatest backfire in American history that these constant, never-ending attacks on Donald Trump are really just fueling Donald Trump's rise back. And look at the polls. They changed after the indictments, did they not? I mean, there were some polls showing him neck and neck. And now all of a sudden he's 30 points ahead in some of these early swing states. They get it. So if there is one bright side to it, it's that.
Now, I think it's really interesting, some of these media attacks on DeSantis that I've seen lately coming from the left. They remind me of the attacks that I saw on Donald Trump a while ago. And I've heard a lot of people saying, well, you should be paying attention to how badly the media hates Ron DeSantis. Do you think you should put any stock in that?
Yeah, I think they see DeSantis as a natural, young, fresh-faced continuation of this MAGA movement that started. Listen, the Republican Party is starting to reorient itself. Instead of taking a back seat and getting our butts kicked in the culture wars, you're now seeing Republicans actively move in and address the culture wars ourselves. And Ron DeSantis did that in Florida, I believe, to great benefit of the country and showed other governors a model. I mean, come on, think about it. Like, no one wins an election in Florida by more than 1 point. It is like B-Sweet. 1 point's a landslide for him. He won by 20. And because people are upset about this stuff, but they're kids. So I think they fear DeSantis because they know Trump is a threat, but he's a limited threat. He can't run for re-election. He's out. I think the media is saying, hey, we don't want this guy and we hate him a lot, but all right, we only have to deal with him 4 more years. When you look at this younger generation, I'll make another case to you. Forget DeSantis for a moment. He's great. I think he is the future. But what about Vivek? Vivek is, don't sleep on Vivek Ramaswamy either. I mean, you want to talk about a guy that, watch him on the campaign. You notice he never gets caught? Ever. There's no question it seems he hasn't thought through. And I tell you, I have a ton of respect for this guy. I think he could be up for a high-level cabinet position, and I think he could surprise some people with a 2 or 3 finish, and you might see this guy in the short spot for even VP, and definitely a political future.
Really?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And not DeSantis in those.
No, DeSantis. I think DeSantis' future is bright. I don't think his time is now, but I think his future is absolutely huge. But we got this great bench: Ted Cruz. You got DeSantis. You got Mike Lee out there. I don't think they're going to run for president. You got Vivek. I mean, you've got all these wonderful, awesome people. What do the Democrats have? You have AOC. Like, that's your future. Bernie Sanders. That's your future. Bernie moaning about millionaires and billionaires. I mean, Elizabeth Warren. I mean, Elizabeth Warren doesn't even know Elizabeth Warren. She wants other people to know. I mean, it's crazy. So I think our future's really bright.
They're telling me you're going to cut, but I want to ask you about your book really quick.
Oh,
Tell me, what is this new book?
So it's available for pre-order now. It's called...
Everybody says so. What you saying?
Kidnapped. Never trafficked. Chained in the basement, yes. Dating for over a year on and off, yes.
We were talking about on the podcast the 39 or 35 kids that were rescued in Georgia. Yeah. And it was a blip in the news. But meanwhile, I saw 1,000 articles on how mean Ellen is. That story right there should be leading everything.
Question: what has Hollywood and the media become when they attack a movie about saving children, yet defend exposing kindergartners to sex? Answer: evil. The Sound of Freedom is a
The evil
blockbuster
my
movie
ass,
with
it's
a battle cry.
stupidity.
God's
Fucking
children
evil
are
bullshit.
not for
It's
sale.
stupidity.
Yet some
It
studios
ain't no
like
fucking
Disney
evil.
are
It's
outraged
straight
over
up
this
fucking
hit success,
stupidity.
and they've sent
It don't make no
repurposed
fucking
the
sense.
mainstream media into 4K.
And that's the goal,
Yeah,
right there.
Rolling Stone,
We just going along to get along. Bullshit.
series.
We literally the bullshitters now.
I'm a kidnap survivor. The line is drawn here. On one side are children, on the other is evil. Choose. Time to buckle up, everybody. We have giants that are down to their bellies. This is a David and Goliath match. A battle of good versus evil. It's us versus them. The Hollywood Hive and the woke mainstream media. Who one more time prove just how much they can't stand you, how much they hate you. Except this time they've added your kids to their list. See, The Sound of Freedom is a simple movie about a man who rescues trafficked children. It's a cinematic signal to meant to inspire people to make a stand, not a soapbox for political messaging. Yet CNN didn't have any of that. They tried to muddy the waters and snuff out its life.
With somebody like Jim Caviezel, he is openly embracing it. He's openly using its catchphrases and its concepts. He's speaking at QAnon conventions.
It's not QAnon, it's Q and an arms. And Q puts out a question, and you're not allowed to ask questions in.
And this film is being marketed to either specific QAnon believers.
I never knew about them. While I was doing this movie, Sound of Freedom has nothing to do with our film.
Who cares if Jim Caviezel and Tim Riley are conspiracy theorists? For that matter, last year they could have both been wearing tinfoil hats as members of the Flat Earth Society every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and the rest of the week spent their time online crowdfunding to raise money so they could find the room because they believed it was made of nutritious grilled cheese. It does not matter.
Believe me, I did a lot of research on it. And according to all the research, it was way worse than anything I showed you. If I put down exactly what happened, it's too hard to take.
Rescuing children isn't about politics nor money. It is a black and white issue. Basic human nature about protecting men has always crossed partisan lines. Or at least it used to.
These films are created out of moral panics. They're created out of bogus statistics. They're created out of fear, and with something like Sound of Freedom that specifically is looking at QAnon concepts of these child trafficking rings that are run by the
Bitch, you a fucking child trafficker, you fucker, you.
Only people like Jim Caviezel, and by extension, only people like the ticket buyer can help bring these trafficking rings down.
So that's his major strategy. He's trying to convince people to turn away from the movie by telling them that the statistics are exaggerated. How pathetic. Not typical or wrong or Ivy League. No digging in the bumper sticker slogan that believes the rest of the doctrine. The only fact that counts here is the number, and it's number one. One child is too many. One child who's abused, sold, bought, and traded is too much. If the movie can save one, it's a success. That's all that matters. It's either Rick Harvey are going to use all of their power to stop this conversation from happening, to stop people from raising awareness, and to do all they can to stop the film from going viral. On that point, they're too late. But they won't stop ever trying.
Something isn't right here. I recently made a video talking about the strange occurrences happening to viewers trying to watch Sound of Freedom. Well, it's gotten worse. Just check out these people's experiences.
There's no one in here. Alone, except that it was sold out.
Fire alarm goes up and people still watch the movie.
There has been a fire emergency reported in the building. Please evacuate the...
The AC was out, like when we went to watch the movie, and I'd seen someone else post something too that also saw it at their AC, and their AC was out, but they didn't turn the lights on.
They literally have the lights
They kept the lights on the entire movie.
They're like, oh, well, we refunded all the tickets because there's no air conditioning in our theaters.
I shared some of those same experiences at my 9:50 p.m. show. The AC was out, and we're talking about a Texas July of the summer. I felt like I was in a sauna in the middle of the Amazon, and magically, just 10 minutes before the credits hit the big screen, I watched from beginning to end. Tried to talk to the manager, but he was completely useless. As my grandfather would say, as useless as trying to sweep tap water out of a well. But now, so we can use these experiences to catalog all the behind-the-scenes dirty deeds because they help to serve up who's the true menace. And together we can shine a spotlight on the Hollywood hive and the woke mainstream media.
CNN,
And hold a mirror up to their faces and show them who our true monsters are about.
CNN,
This
it's
is
true
the fight
monster.
between good versus evil. Sound of Freedom is a superhero movie for dads with grown ones. The Kieran thriller about child trafficking is designed to appeal to the conscience of a conspiracy out of Wilbur. Miles Cleave's hit piece in the Rolling Stone perfectly embodies the media's mindset right now. Their malice towards everyone who thinks differently than they do. Just imagine if everyone in Tinseltown wore pink polka dotted socks. Anyone who didn't would be instantly branded and hissed folks bigot and bot. And when it comes to Sound of Freedom, Mr. Clee is the brand ambassador for every bend-over beta-milk bobblehead. He takes his orders, nods his head, and then smiles. The only fact he actually nailed in the article, he got whiteboard the names of the actors, producers, the non-profit organization, and the film. That's it. Ballard, Caviezel, and others of their ilk had primed the public to accept Sound of Freedom as a documentary rather than delusional by fomenting moral panic for years over this grossly exaggerated epidemic of child trafficking. Talk about selling your soul for 30 pieces of silver. Clee continues trying undermining Jim Caviezel simply because he has different beliefs. Yet the audiences around the country aren't having any of it. They're serving up his lunch to the writer.
And I'm shutting your butt down.
The Sound of Freedom never once promoted itself as a documentary. But I think that stops the wannabe writer from peppering his piece with one lie after another as if he's campaigning for higher office. He uses words like gross exaggeration, moral panic, fomenting, as if that's to scare someone. But instead, he's preaching to his choir, family haters, cultural assassins, and personal truth crusaders. That's why. It's because he wants to energize the participation trophy generation. Those are the people who view truth as a tool, nothing else. It's just another weapon used to justify any of their actions at any moment of the day they want to feel good. Nothing more.
Last weekend, police broke up a major sex trafficking ring in Hawaii.
Tim Ballard has one mission: to track down child traffickers.
Right there, that CBS News completely exposing Clee as nothing more than a hitman with a digital pen. It burst into his little bubble with a deep dive on the Ballard and Operation Underground Railroad. And that's from a decade ago. It also shows that the reporter doesn't know how to do any of his research. Another liar in the mainstream media.
Ballard, a former Homeland Security agent, now heads up Operation Underground Railroad, liberating one child at a time.
May you notice that the network didn't once during those days when they pretended to care about kids and to have this facade of being serious journalists. Not once did they try to spin false facts or ridicule the people who are trying to save kids. Because above everything else, above politics, above money, above personal millions, nothing is more important than protecting children.
It is a controversial issue. It shouldn't be. We should just be naturally wanting to save our children.
Yep.
Now, all that anger that you see coming out of the Hollywood hive and the legacy press is all stemming from politics. The rest of it rears its ugly head out of sheer anger.
Why are you doing it? Because God's children are not for sale.
The Sound of Freedom is a word-of-mouth smashing success. You're talking about an independent film that was made 5 years ago for around $14 million, which Disney actually owned after they bought 20th Century Fox. But then they put it on ice. And now the little film has pulled the pants down of the Mouse House's biggest failure.
Why did Disney put this movie on ice?
But instead of reporting that phenomenal feat, you have the national press has
Why?
decided to pin the target on the picture as right-wing propaganda.
Yeah,
Why
that's not gonna play.
I wonder if the studios decided to tell one of the freshman stars, actor Ashton Kutcher, that everything he believed was merely a conspiracy theory.
My day job is as the chairman and the co-founder of Thorn. We built software to fight human trafficking in the sexual exploitation of children.
Why did Disney not put this movie out?
Is stripped away.
Sounds of Freedom.
I've seen video content.
Because Disney and our government and the motherfucking media is a part of child trafficking.
There was a sex tourist in Cambodia.
God bless him, what a true human being who used his celebrity star status to save lives, to stop children from suffering anymore. And I understand a little bit about that, just a shadow of it. I was kidnapped. Never traffic. Chained in the basement, yes. Beaten for over a year on and on, yes. Traffic, never. My case was a little bit different. And still because the fact that it wasn't a stranger who abducted me. It was my father. A man who had a good and entire life. I was a kid. I remember the very moment that he changed when someone I didn't understand as well. We went back to our home in New York in the city during a long time. But the rain dams and listen sweet, they show their loving, calm, patient. And I would yell or say, I want to go back to the kids and go. Once we arrived in Amsterdam, I said, if you get ticket, you'll fly back to Houston, and I'll stay here. London, I'll stay here, and you'll fly back. Once we hit his final destination, it was game over. That kind, soothing hand that was always on my shoulder turned into an iron light. It projected nothing but pain and a cold, angry note. He didn't care if anyone in the public saw. And then in a blink of an eye, it wasn't like that anymore. It was just this alien danger. I no longer had control over my body. I didn't know my surroundings. It was all him. But I 100% owned my spirit. And that's how a 7-year-old defeated his first giant. Eventually, my family rescued me from across the world.
Like, please don't politicize this issue. Child sexual trafficking is not a political issue. Nobody has like a whole moral superiority of like, well, my party believes this. No. This is just about being a good person who doesn't want to see children hurt.
But when you want to see real hate, real loathing, just look at the way they treat children. Who won't target, utterly despise them. Why else do you think they will undermine a movie that's trying to raise awareness to save them? The Sound of Freedom has been accused by some critics of working the truth about child exploitation and catering to QAnon conspiracy theorists. Something its distributor Angel Studios denies. The Guardian's critic called it a QAnon-adjacent thriller seducing America, and the film star Caviezel has openly embraced the extreme movement, suggesting in media events that a shadowy international cabal is kidnapping children to consume their organs. No different pretty much than the smear job from the Rolling Stone. But it does make one wonder if there isn't some international cabal giving the woke mainstream media their marching orders. Because, aren't you curious? How they all sound the same. They all read from the same script and say the very same words.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become common on social media.
But if you know that the news is false news,
What's truly pathetic is how Hollywood has morphed into what they are today. They've gone so far as they're going to try to stop distributors from showing them in theaters. And while they're playing all their little Machiavellian games, you have children being abducted every 40 seconds. The numbers are so astronomical that if you were to concentrate them in one place, you'd have cities the size of Liverpool in the UK and San Francisco in the US would vanish every year like we were living in a dystopian nightmare. Cases of human trafficking have been reported in all 50 U.S. states. Anyone can be trafficked regardless of race, class, education, gender, age, or citizenship when forcibly coerced or taxed by false promises. The good news is that Sound of Freedom is opening people's eyes. It's empowering them to understand what the character are so many corporations in the industry. Take Disney, for example. It's not the magic kingdom we all grew up with. Right now, the Mouse House is campaigning 24/7 with each one of its projects on gender identity, representation, and having its pronoun police lecture the public with every big budget bomb talk. But you know what? We don't need them anymore. Because right now we have an alternative media workaround to send out our message and win. All we have to do when a monster shows his teeth, the children today, is heroes digging their feet, they grin and make a stand. And if you want to win from battle to battle, all you got to do is remember that we never bow down, we never beg to leave. Always forward.
Liberty and Levin, I want to thank you for being here. I know you have other things you could be doing on a Sunday night.
George's Black Pepper Smokehouse is back.
Liberty and Levin, I want to thank you for being here. I know you have other things you could be doing on a Sunday night, but I think this is time well spent. I believe you'll agree when I'm completed. Christopher Wray gave testimony last week for 5 hours. In the 5 hours, we learned nothing from him. He plays rope-a-dope, he obstructs, and he is intellectually dishonest, if not worse. And I don't care that Chris Christie vouches for him. That demonstrates that Chris Christie has his own issues, and he ought not be president of the United States. The FBI is out of control. It's been out of control. It was out of control before Chris Wray, and it's out of control now. I've just written this book, The Democrat Party Hates America. It's 400 pages long, it's over 100,000 words long, and it could have been twice as long. And there's an entire chapter on liberty, on the Constitution, on the First Amendment. Very, very important. Our First Amendment's under attack, and it's under attack by this administration, it's under attack by the Democrat Party, it's under attack by the FBI, under Christopher Wray. All these reforms he's put in place, baloney. Here's what I say. Domestic monitoring and surveillance of communication against American citizens has been growing, but they're now exploding under the Biden administration. On the same day as this testimony, an IRS agent visited the New Jersey home of one of the journalists, Matt Taibbi. Remember him? What was he about? He was hired by Elon Musk to take a look at the Twitter file. And they found what? Absolute unbelievable coordination between the FBI and every major federal department of the Biden administration to censor political critics, to protect Joe Biden and his campaign, to undermine science, knowledge, experience, information related to anything they oppose, including vaccines. Also, April 2023, the Department of Justice Inspector General Michael Horowitz testified before a House committee that, quote, more than 1 million secret searches of Americans conducted by the FBI were made erroneously. When he was asked about this, Wray said, I don't know if it's a million, I don't have that figure. This is testimony under oath by the Inspector General. Around 30% of the approximately 3.4 million searches were done in error. 1 million? The searches in question were conducted by FBI personnel with authority under the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA. The bill enables U.S. authorities to gather information on U.S. citizens suspected of being involved with possible spies or terrorists. 3.39 million searches were conducted by the FBI in 2021 under Christopher Wray. Christie's battle. U.S. intelligence officials have indicated that was up from just 1.2 million in 2020. That means the Biden Department of Justice and FBI massively increased secret domestic surveillance by over 300%. And a third of the searches that were sought by the FBI and secretly authorized by a federal judge were supposedly in error. This is astonishing. It is unprecedented. Citizens and FBI agents have turned whistleblowers. They have bravely come forward to report agency abuses to Congress. They've been severely punished by FBI brass. That's Christopher Wray. In a report titled FBI Whistleblower Testimony Highlights Government Abuse, Misallocation of Resources, and Retaliation. Whistleblowers have had their security clearances revoked, been suspended without pay. Some have been left homeless for speaking up on abuses they have witnessed, reports the Daily Mail. Instead of hundreds of investigations stemming from an isolated incident on the Capitol on January 6th. The FBI and DOJ officials point to significant increases in domestic violent terrorism and extremism around the United States. The threats and retaliation by the Biden administration against whistleblowers reporting abuses of power are widespread. The Washington Examiner reports that at the IRS, a second IRS whistleblower has alleged retaliation.
for raising concerns. Department leadership was acting inappropriately on the investigation into Hunter Biden. You're familiar with this. The allegations from an IRS case came a month after an IRS supervisory special agent revealed to Congress politics had interfered in the case involving Joe Biden's son, Hunter. Where did it come from? The Department of Justice. Both whistleblowers were removed from the federal investigation into possible Hunter violations. Communications obtained by the first whistleblower's lawyers show that the second whistleblower was threatened with allegations of criminal conduct after raising concerns about the handling of Hunter Biden's case. Of course, as we now know, these agents were pulled so the Department of Justice could cut a sweetheart deal with Hunter. I don't know. I would ask Chris Christie and other apologists for this behavior. Is everybody lying? All the whistleblowers from the FBI, the whistleblowers from the IRS? Are they all lying? I don't think they're all lying. Let's continue. There's more from my book. Although the FBI Director Christopher Wray and Attorney General Garland claim ignorance, distanced himself from another scandal, this time specifically targeting traditionalists in the Catholic Church. Here's what we know thanks to Kyle Serafin, a former FBI special agent, federal whistleblower, U.S. Air Force vet, who uncovered a now infamous January 23, 2023 document. He uncovered. He said the FBI's Richmond Division would like to protect Virginians from the threat of white supremacy, which it believes has found a home within Catholics who prefer the Latin Mass. An intelligence analyst within the Richmond field office of the FBI released in a newly finished intelligence product dated January 3, 2023, racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists and their interests in radical traditionalist Catholics, or RTCs, they call them. The document assesses with high confidence the FBI can mitigate the threat of radical traditionalist Catholics by recruiting sources within the Catholic Church. While most Americans are familiar with criminal investigations which explore the allegation or information that a crime has been committed, many are not familiar, ready, with intelligence investigations. In contrast to the linear nature of a criminal case, counterintelligence and counterterrorism cases follow a circular path that can continue indefinitely without any articulated goal. In other words, you don't need probable cause, you don't need the predicates, you just want an investigation. Indeed, information is the goal of these types of cases. Many counterterrorism cases never articulate or uncover a single criminal act. They continue in order to develop more understanding of the threat landscape or threat pictures, as quoted in this document. Intelligence investigations often beget more investigations. Now, the relevance of this product should not be lost on the reader. He says the danger presented by the FBI initiative is grave. He explains that products like this can be used to support opening of information-only cases, and there's no reason to expect radical traditionalist Catholics are the end point of this train. They will be the beginning. And he points out, the beginning. Orthodox Jews, Muslims, whatever they want. That's why they need a building bigger than a Pentagon, with all kinds of new technology and so forth. Says this is what a politicized FBI looks like. It should
Fuck the FBI. We do not need them. We do not need them.
Once again, Biden and the Democrat administration, I argue, plead ignorance. I don't know, that's a one-off. I don't support that product. What? Like we're selling apples here. And there's the case of Mark Howard. Department of Justice sent approximately 20 heavily armed FBI agents to arrest Howard early in the morning and in front of his family, including several young children, for allegedly violating the freedom of access to clinic entrances, the FACE Act. And this is what the abortionists at the Department of Justice are using to go after pro-lifers. The show of force was ordered by the Department of Justice, despite Houck's lawyer informing federal authorities that Houck would surrender voluntarily. Houck was charged with 2 federal counts of violating the FACE Act for allegedly pushing a pro-abortion activist in front of an abortion clinic after the activist had allegedly shot their 12-year-old son. Biden's Department of Justice deliberately distorted the law in order to persecute Houck, threatening to land Houck for 11 years in prison.
It always happens like that. It always happens like that. It always happens like that. Oh, it always happens like that. That bullshit always happens at the last one. It never fails. It never fucking fails. It never fails. Always at the end of it, somebody fall over there.
Targeting parents, with the FBI, with National Intelligence, with the Criminal Division, with all the U.S. Attorney's Office, He says, I am directing the FBI, working with each U.S. attorney, to convene meetings with federal, state, local, tribal, and territorial leaders in each federal judicial district within 30 days of the issuance of this memorandum. These meetings will facilitate the discussion of strategies for addressing threats against school administrators, board members, teachers, and staff, and will open dedicated lines of communication for threatening, reporting, assessment, and response. First of all, the FBI, the federal government, has no authority in local matters like this. None. Secondly, it was an inside job of the National School Boards Association, the teachers' unions, working with the Department of Education and Justice Department to come up with this crap against our parents. Parents protesting, pro-lifers, the Catholic Church, monitoring, under Christopher Wray. Then we have this unbelievable decision, over 150 pages by a federal judge in Louisiana. What does he say? He says, my God, I've never seen anything like this. The violations of the First Amendment by this administration, by the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, and virtually everybody in the White House and in federal law enforcement at the senior level. With Twitter.
Hi, what do you need?
With other platforms.
One limo coming up.
Silencing Americans, silencing scientists, silencing doctors, silencing of political opponents, being investigated, being wiped off of social media, at the direction and the urging of the federal government, a clear violation of the First Amendment. Has anybody read it? It's right here. It's unbelievable. You have judges who are honorable. And I was about to say the exception to the rule, but maybe I will. We're trying to tell us you're losing your country. We have a Dorn report here where he's trying to tell us we're losing our country. It is appalling what's taking place here. Let's look at the Dorn report. More on the FBI. What does he say? And this is over 300 pages long, which is why the Democrats and the media attack him, why the Democrats and the media defend what Zuckerberg did at Facebook and what others have done at Twitter, why they attacked the independent journalists who came before an investigative committee and even threatened to put one of them in prison and sick the IRS on one of them. This is serious business, America. This is police state tactics that are taking place. What did Dorn say? What did he say? In March 2019, Special Counsel Robert Mueller concluded his investigation into the Russian government's efforts to interfere in the 2016 presidential election, including any links or coordination between the Russian government and individuals associated with the Trump campaign. That investigation did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government in its election interference activity. But the Democrats said he did. Pelosi said he did. Hillary said he did. Biden said he did. Their media said he did. Over and over again. Adam Schiff wants to be senator from California. Lied repeatedly to the American people. Are they to be held to account? No, no way. But there's more. He says our findings and conclusions regarding these and related questions are sobering. Says more. Based on the review of Crossfire Hurricane, the investigation of Trump and all the rest, with respect to Russia and related intelligence activities, we conclude the Department and the FBI failed to uphold their important mission of strict fidelity to the law in connection with certain events and activities described in this report. As noted, former FBI attorney Kevin Kleinsmith committed a criminal offense by fabricating language in an email that was material to the FBI pending a FISA warrant. Surveillance. In other instances, FBI personnel working on that same FISA application displayed at best a cavalier attitude towards accuracy and completeness. FBI personnel also repeatedly disregarded important requirements when they continued to seek renewals of that FISA surveillance, while acknowledging, both then and in hindsight, that they did not genuinely believe there was probable cause to believe the target was knowingly engaged in clandestine activity. It's amazing. Our investigation also revealed that senior FBI personnel displayed a serious lack of analytical rigor towards the information that they received, especially information received from politically affiliated persons and entities, aka the Democrat Party. This information is part triggered and sustained crossfire hurricane and contributed to the subsequent need for special counsel Mueller's investigation. In particular, there was significant reliance on investigative leads provided or funded directly or indirectly by Trump's political opponents. The department did not adequately examine or question these materials and the motivations of those providing them. Even when, at about the same time, the director of the FBI and others learned of significant and potentially contrary intelligence. What did they make of? It's not American. That's what it make of it. The Democrat Party owns the Department of Justice. You don't hear Republicans doing this sort of thing in a Republican administration. This is why I take the time to go through the attacks on Donald Trump, because he's illustrative of that problem. People who protested abortion clinics, parents who peacefully protested school boards, traditional Catholics, the internet, free speech, they are all under brutal assault by federal law enforcement. And they're fit. The Attorney General of the United States, like a mob lawyer, quietly directing everything behind the scenes. So you can't see him, you can't hear him, you can't watch him. Comes out, like Mr. McGill, makes a few statements and shuffles off the stage. He is diabolical. The people working for him are diabolical. What's going on with the special counsel is hideous and unconscionable. This is why this is such an important issue. This is why the pollsters can't understand these Republicans. They want to go up front with you. Why they would keep supporting this guy so that? Because they know tyranny when they see it. And I know totalitarianism when I see it. As long as I have this platform and every other platform, I'm going to speak out against it. I've got more material here, stacks of material, that invite the FBI, the Department of Justice, the White House, and the whole bunch of them. And if we have Republican candidates that don't have a problem with this, I think Chris Wray's a good guy. He's put reforms in place. There's no hope for them. There's no hope for us. They become president. It's always former federal prosecutors, and then they look at the indictment and they say, this is insurmountable. We've never seen anything like this in our life. Oh my God, he's going to go to prison for 1,012 years. Look at the charge. How's he going to overcome it? Don't mess with the federal government. That's the lesson. Well, I want to go through a few things with you, Mr. Attorney, so the American people understand there's two sides here when it comes to this, and that the president's lawyers have multiple opportunities. Among other things I mentioned last Sunday, here are 40 leaks, including grand jury leaks, investigative leaks, all the leaks that help the federal government in their case. They motion in front of the judge immediately to order an investigation by OPR, the Office of Professional Responsibility, into the special counsel, his staff, get his texts, get his emails, get his phone log, because it violates the 5th and 6th Amendment to the Constitution due process. Am I right?
Oh, you're 100% correct. And let me tell you why. Why all these leaks are being leaked to the left-wing media immediately. The prosecutors on these left-wing shows have all the evidence because it's being leaked right from Jack Smith's office, the Department of Justice, to the media. And I'll tell you right now, that is a valid motion because these leaks are detrimental and they're trying to influence the jury pool. That would be one of the first motions I would file if I were Trump's attorney.
How about a motion to dismiss the indictment on the Presidential Records Act? The PRA governs the relationship former presidents have with the archives, not the Espionage Act. And let's get this thing set up. Let's get the constitutional and statutory discussion going now. Let's cite the Obama judge in the Clinton Judicial Watch case where he puts classified information in his socks drawer. Let's get that going and let's get that resolved. What about that motion?
Game over. That is, to me, the most important first motion President Trump legal team can file. Look, the President Records Act exonerates President Trump. Period. And there is cases that are on file to show that support. What can the prosecution use in response? President Trump had the absolute absolute right to declassify any and all documents in his custody, control, and possession. There has been no response to that by the prosecution. I'll tell you why. Because they don't have one, Mark. They are going after this man for one sole reason. Everyone knows it. The leading Republican candidate. In my opinion, the next president of this country is trying to be derailed by the prosecution, by Joe Biden, by Merrick Garland, by Christopher Wray, and the Democratic machine. Oh, I forgot. And the left-wing media. They are in trouble. They cannot beat him at the polls, but they want to tie him up in the legal system. The Presidential Record Act, back to the call of your question, in my opinion, is an outright dismissal of these frivolous charges against Donald J. Trump.
Let's go to the warrant. Motion to dismiss search warrant as a general warrant. This master, Reinhardt, not a full-fledged federal judge, allowed the government to seize similarly packaged material in the vicinity of boxes containing documents marked classified. That is a limitless general warrant that authorizes the FBI to rummage through Mar-a-Lago, which is exactly what they did. You've seen search warrants before. What kind of specificity and probable cause is that, Leo Terrell?
None. Zero. And you know what? The thing that makes it so upsetting to me about this entire case, turning the Presidential Record Act into a criminal charge, where's the cooperation that could have been resolved through a normal subpoena and a process through the civil process? They have weaponized this particular case in order to punish President Trump, to incarcerate President Trump. They're trying to prosecute President Trump, and on the other hand, Mark, they're trying to protect, and they're doing a darn good job of Joe Biden, who does not have the right to use the Presidential Records Act, who has documents stored everywhere in this country. Oh, by the way, what's the current status of that case?
Assuming President Trump's team now has the full unredacted affidavit, which they must have, since that was used to support that warrant. Why wouldn't they go to the court? Because I guarantee you there's information in that affidavit that is helpful to President
Because
Trump.
the court is corrupted too.
That has not been released to the public yet.
So y'all legal line lawyers with y'all
Motion
own
for a
pockets.
Frank's hearing. Now, what's a Frank's hearing, America? And then I'll get to you after the break. A judge will deny a request for a search warrant based on insufficient fact. A defendant seeking to challenge the sufficiency of an affidavit has to file a motion for a Frank's hearing. The warrant is invalid if the judge finds that a consequential statement in the warrant affidavit was a lie. I would file that damn thing yesterday. Now, I want to know what your opinion is about that when we return. We'll be right back. Leo Terrell, so this Frank's hearing, a motion, in other words, for America, you're questioning the affidavit. First of all, you need access to the full affidavit. There's information in the affidavit that is help to your client, but it wasn't used in a way that it should have been used, including by the court. And by the way, Leo Terrell, the master who ordered the warrant is not the one who's supposed to look at him ordering the warrant. Somebody else has to look at that. Go right ahead.
America, Mark Levin is spot on. That term, Frank's hearing, to me is a game changer. And the only thing I disagree with Mark about, he said it should have been filed a couple days ago. It should have been filed 6 months ago. That Frank hearing is an evidentiary hearing that allows Donald Trump and his prosecuting team to examine the credibility, the reliability of the information contained in the warrant. And if he has a right to challenge it, and he has that right to challenge it in an evidentiary hearing, there is not substantial evidence to support the basis of that warrant, all the evidence is thrown out. And this is something that a defense attorney would file. This is something that should be filed immediately, because I think it would end this case today, right now.
There's a guy in the Department of Justice, Leo, by the name of Jay Brad. He leads the Justice Department's Counterintelligence Division. He's been heading up this investigation behind the scenes. He's a little guy. He's got a Napoleonic complex. Apparently he thinks he's a tough guy. And he uses the resources of the government against the former president. And there's an allegation against him by not some kind of cockamamie lawyer, but a very highly respected lawyer in Washington, D.C. And he says in so many words to this lawyer, who's representing the co-defendant in this case, an aide to Donald Trump, look, We know you're seeking to become a Superior Court judge in Washington here, which is a competitive, competition. He says, it probably wouldn't hurt you if you could get your client to testify against Donald Trump. You know where I come from in Philadelphia? It's called extortion. That's what that's called. That's called extortion. Now, there's some secret hearing going on behind the scenes and so forth. Here's what I would do. Let's bring up another one. A Brady motion. Now, what's a Brady motion? That is a legal tool you use to compel evidence from the prosecution. You can use a legal motion to seek both exculpatory and impeachment evidence from the prosecution. I want every bit of information on this. I want to know if the lead prosecutor was shaking down a lawyer, and he's apparently said he was, in order to get somebody to testify against me. What do you think that, former federal prosecutors? Leo, what do you think about that?
I love being on your show. A Brady motion is a constitutional obligation for the prosecutor to turn over everything to the Trump team. And a Brady motion is automatic. And if it's not produced by the prosecution, filing a Brady motion demanding that information, and that information withheld, another game changer. Another game is over. Mark, there should be a total defense strategy to get all this information. And this is the reason why before anything happens in a first day of trial, all these motions should be filed immediately. The Brady motion is a constitutional right of President Trump in pursuing a affirmative defense against these frivolous charges.
I just want to remind America of the first segment of the program where I went through how corrupt the FBI has become, how political it is in one way, how the Democrat Party owns the DOJ, how they own these
how they own the fucking legal system. Fuck, they're legal lying lawyers. They become judges.
They're all cheering this on. They're cheering on a corrupt DA in Manhattan who campaigned that he was going to get Trump, a corrupt Attorney General, Democrat, in New York, who campaigned that she was going to get Trump, a DA in Georgia who has apparently her entire career pinned to making some kind of charges related to January 6th, and a second federal grand jury run by the same damn Department of Justice related to January 6th, where they're trying to concoct arguments about a January 6th election, which is handled politically by Congress, not by prosecutors. And so I just want the American people to understand, Leo Terrell, that you don't roll over and play dead just because a prosecutor throws almost 40 charges against you, piles on charges. Could have been one or two. No, we're going to make them 37. And violates attorney-client privilege to boot. Another motion that needs to be filed and brought all the way to the Supreme Court. Your final words.
Thank you very much for that question. The Democrats hate the Constitution. They hate liberty. They hate freedom. You talk about it all the time. They ignore the rights and privileges of Donald Trump. If they ignore his rights, they ignore all of our rights. That's why there is a fight for our separation of this horrific approach by the Democrats to tear down the Constitution and take away our freedom. Our country is at issue right now. And if we don't save it, we are going to be in deep problems with losing our freedom. I'll tell you this, Mark. The problem is that President Trump is really standing for every American right now because his fight is our fight. And what you're doing and what I'm doing, what we're trying to do is tell the American people our country's at issue. And we have to protect our legal freedom. Our liberty and our rule of law separates us from every country on this planet, Mark. And that's why these battles right now that Trump is facing are battles that we as Americans are facing as well.
Amen, brother. We need to break the back of this Justice Department and this FBI, or they're going to break ours. God bless you and be well.